Let's get back to the odd couple, Chris Brousard and Rob Parker, who apparently tweeted out he put olive oil on his back because it was so hot in L.A. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Brian.
Olive oil
Finley.
is not a condiment.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It is not.
We're
I'd rather have
coming to you
mayonnaise
live
on my back.
from the Farmers Insurance Fox Sports Radio studios. Call
didn't sound
1-888-FARMERS, and you could save a whole lot of something on your auto insurance. Sarah, please forget you heard that last little exchange.
I'm looking out my New York City window with the snow and the slush and the cold weather.
Sarah,
and so
let me tell you why I said that, because I tweeted out today, it was 87 degrees in Los Angeles this afternoon, and I was like, it's so hot, can somebody please pour barbecue sauce on my back? So that's where the whole thing came from. So I just want you to know.
Even that doesn't make sense.
I know.
That does.
I feel like Rob,
I feel like
to make a tweet like that, use coconut oil.
Okay. Well, Sarah is the FS1 NBA analyst and one of the best NBA broadcasters out there for the Yes Network. She's a Nets analyst. So, look, speaking of hot, Sarah,
wow.
I mean, the Nets, awesome. and we got so much to get into, but Rob and I were just talking about the Nets. And we both agreed right now. Now, I think most everyone understands Kevin Durant's their best player.
Right.
But we feel like right now that James Harden is not only their MVP, but if he plays the rest of the season like this and they continue to win, I think he could get himself in the league MVP conversation. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, that's a step I wasn't ready for. I do think that he has been tremendous. Given though the way that Embiid and LeBron and everyone's been playing, I still think there's a level to get to. But CB, you said he's been extraordinary, and just his control, his dominance of how the Nets offense is operating. He is just a savant with the basketball in his hands, how he's getting everyone involved. One of the biggest things we've seen is how everyone is understanding their roles, and I would credit a ton of that to just the orchestration that James Harden has had with the ball in his hands and how he's making decisions.
Sarah, let's just, plenty of teams have won all their games on a road trip, but when you go 5-0 on the West Coast against some pretty good teams, all of them were over 500, except for Sacramento, Chris, and they had KD then, but the other 4 games against the better teams, they didn't have their best player, and for them to go 5-0 and have now won 8 straight games against Western Conference opponents, I mean, we can't poo-poo this. That's pretty big stuff. Franchise kind of franchise-making news for the Nets.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was the best road trip in Nets franchise history, and I think it was just the variety of ways in which they won. To your point, against top-level competition, and a lot of teams. You look at Phoenix that had been playing so well. Of course, the Clippers, the Lakers, and different players were missing at different points. But the fact of the matter is, Durant only played in one of those games. But it was interesting to watch, just not only offensively how they had been playing, but I think the big talk, the big emphasis, how are they going to try and shore up and improve their defense? And that was the area that their connectivity, the communication, they're just playing harder, they're playing smarter. The big difference throughout the course of the last 5-6 games through this win streak is taking care of the basketball. And to me, that's what has alleviated so much pressure off of their defense. And when you break down the numbers, a lot of the opponent field goal percentages or things of that nature are fairly similar to even how they were earlier in the season or a few weeks ago. But they're not giving opponents 10, 15, 20 extra possessions, extra shots to deal with. And you can tell they're having fun. Winning is fun. So winning helps chemistry a whole lot, and they have a lot of it right now.
What type of adjustments, if any, do you foresee them having to make when Kevin Durant comes back?
Man, Susie, that's going to be interesting. And I mean, I think by nature, anytime you are reintegrating a player of his caliber or at any level, there's going to be some adjustments. But he is just so versatile and so easy to fit with anyone, and just how he plays, what he could do, the efficiency that he brings to the table. I think, too, for as much as you look at offensively, he's by far been the Nets' best defender this year. So the fact that they're doing some of things with him missing on that end of the floor says something. But I think, it also comes back to just the shots and the usage. And I think between Harden, between Kyrie, and, some of the other players, Joe Harris getting involved, of course, Jeff Green, what he's been able to do, but the type and the amount of shots. But right now, this group has been really unselfish, willing passers, high amount of assists because of the way that they're moving the basketball. So I certainly don't see there being issues with it, but I do think anytime you're reintegrating someone, it may take a second to catch that rhythm and fluidity.
How about Kyrie? I mean, at one point people were saying he should retire. He doesn't want to play, and he's come back, right? Apologized for all the stuff, paid his fine, whatever, and has just balled out since he's been back. And what is he like? And he's playing some of his best basketball.
Yeah, Rob, you know what? He seems happy. It's crazy. I think the last time I was talking to you guys, I'm not sure if he.
Right.
Chris,
I don't
Chris, you had said you didn't think he was happy. Right. Chris said that.
Yeah.
It was actually right after his opening, that press conference when he came back.
When he
Oh,
came
that's
back.
right.
Right.
Right. So before him, taking his personal leave, he seems happy. He's enjoying himself. I think, people understand him in the organization, his teammates. There's a good level of just mutual respect, I think, between him and his teammates, coaching staff. Everyone seems, and again, this goes back to, talk to me in 2 weeks, and who knows if he hits some bumps or challenges. But at this point, he just seems to be purely having fun with the game and enjoying being out there. And you could see it. You could see it in the spirit of the way he plays. You even saw it when, he's on the bench a couple of games that he had missed, and just the way in which he was so energized and vocal, and just the enthusiasm that came from him on the sidelines. I think there's a lot of accountability amongst all these guys, and they feel very free to be direct and honest in how they're speaking to one another, without hurting any feelings. And I think that goes a long way just in the steps that they've taken. But man, he's been tremendous in his efficiency. And I know a lot was made of him coming out and saying, that I told James he's the point guard, I'm the two guard.
Was
It's like,
Nash
wow.
involved in that conversation?
Yeah, it's like, I think, well, and just by the way James is playing, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, we kind of figure that, like, move you over in the starting lineup sheet. But I think that goes back to just the comfort in the roles and the comfort in what's expected out there. And knowing that he could just be him and he could go score, and he's been tremendous at that. And so, I think for all of those reasons right now at this point, he seems like he's physically, mentally, emotionally, all those things that are so important and valuable for not only a player, but a human. He seems to be in a really good place.
Sarah, we're throwing all these flowers and praise on the Nets.
Yeah.
I will say this. I thought yesterday at the end of the game, Kyrie went a little bit rogue. I thought he took a couple of bad threes that were early in the shot clock, both in the last minute, if I remember correctly. How much of you talk about that, and is that a concern at any point? And do you agree with me that those were kind of bad shots that he took?
Well, I think that's James was, I think that's going to go back to the give and take. And when you ask about reintegrating Kevin Durant, I think a lot of it, and I don't think it's an issue, a concern, a problem, but it is a factor of when you have, three of the top 10 fourth quarter scorers, or, they score in isolation, however you want to look at it, just the potency they bring to the table, just the continued feel of closing games. And we've seen them for the short amount of time and stretches that all three have actually been in games and been healthy and available together. There has been a good give and take, and it does not feel or seem in any capacity like egos are involved. And so that's the one positive thing. But I do think that's part of it, because I think you look at any one of those players and they probably believe that they, which they have all been at that, their throughout the course of their careers, the go-to guys at the end of games. So I think it's going to be a feel, the way the defense looks, matchups, personnel, the switches they're looking for, all of those things. But to your point, to be like, I think some of and Kyrie was asked about it. That last shot that DeAndre Jordan actually cleaned things up and had that bucket.
That was a great play by Jordan right there.
Yeah, and he's another one who seems revived and has done a really nice job just with his energy. So I think,
has he been challenged? Because when they went small with the starting lineup, did you feel like that kind of challenged DeAndre, lit a fire under him, or what?
I just think in general, I think some of that. I also just think everyone. There was a point they had a really bad loss before they had the 6-game win streak. They had a really bad, embarrassing loss to Detroit.
Right.
And I think since that point, there was just a lot of looking in the mirror, individually, collectively. And since then, and I think DeAndre realizes how critical he is with their lack of depth in the front court and playing small so much. But when he's in there, and that was a circumstance with the Clippers. Jeff Green gets hurt. He goes out. TLC, who would normally potentially be in there to close. I mean, the Nets would have been small. DeAndre Jordan would not have been in that game if not for a handful of the injuries that occurred. But I think he, realizes that how much he is needed and the effort required. And he's been really good. You appreciate seeing what he's been able to do, especially the last few weeks, considering some of those moments and how he looked at the start of the year.
All right, that's Sarah Kustok, FS1 NBA analyst
so much, Sarah.
and the Nets analyst for Yes Network. Great stuff. We appreciate the
knowledge,
knowledge,
You guys are
Sarah.
the best. Soak up the sun for me.
You know it.